My grandfather always started this story the same way, with his eyes lowered, as if he were trying to avoid seeing memories he preferred to forget. He said there were things on Lençol Hill that no one understood, and that some should never be seen twice. At the time, he lived in a simple masonry house built on the edge of a steep cliff. Just below, the river ran strongly, making a constant noise, as if someone were whispering non-stop in the depths of the night. Lençol Hill was beautiful during the day. The sun hit the slopes and seemed to melt the fog rising from the river. But when the sun hid behind the trees, the place changed completely. The wind felt different, the air grew heavy, and even the animals went silent. On that specific night, my grandfather had come home very late from work. The heavy labor left his body sore and his eyes burning with exhaustion. He knew he had already missed the service at church, but he needed to pick up my grandmother, my mother, and my aunts, who had gone earlier. He washed his face, took a deep breath, and left immediately. There was no lighting at all on the road. At that time, no one had streetlights, flashlights, or any type of light. My grandfather made the whole way in the dark, guided only by the moonlight and the faint glow coming from the river below. The dirt road seemed even narrower at night. The trees formed dark tunnels on both sides, and the deep cliff was hidden in the shadow. The only thing he could hear was the sound of his own footsteps and the river running invisibly in the darkness. He walked quickly, trying to ignore the constant chill climbing up his neck. It felt as if the whole hill was watching him. Then he saw the figure, standing still, right in the middle of the road, blocking the way. My grandfather said that from afar it looked like an ordinary man, maybe a neighbor, but as he got closer, he realized the man didn't move. Nothing, not a step, not a gesture. My grandfather, always polite, greeted him. "Good evening." The man answered without moving his head. "Good evening." The voice was low, dragging, without any emotion. But the strangest detail was another. The man's face simply didn't appear. The moon lit up the entire road, the hat, the clothes, but the shadow under the brim was far too deep, too dark, unnatural. My grandfather tried not to show fear. He took a step to the side, trying to pass, but the man opened his mouth and started talking, out of nowhere, for no reason. He talked about the weather, about the sound of the river, about the brightness of the moon, as if he were trying to fill time and keep my grandfather there. My grandfather, in a hurry, tried to answer one thing or another, but he needed to move on. So he tried to end the conversation. "Well, I'm going now." And then the man lifted his head a little and said, "May God go with you." The tone didn't sound like a blessing. It sounded like a warning or a threat. My grandfather tried to say goodbye again. "I need to pick up my family." And the man repeated, identical, "May God go with you." Same tone, same phrase, same pause. It was as if he were stuck in a loop. Then the voices began. First low, like echoes coming from the woods. Then clearer, as if many people were walking and talking on the road. My grandfather looked around. Nothing. No one. The voices grew louder. Laughter, footsteps, whispers. But there wasn't a living soul on the road. The man remained still, motionless, with his face buried in shadow, as if the sound didn't affect him. My grandfather began to sweat cold. He tried to take another step, but felt his legs grow heavy, as if they were stuck to the ground. And the man repeated once more, now slower, "May God go with you." It was at that moment my grandfather realized that thing wasn't a person, not because of the face, which didn't exist in the light, but because of the presence, the weight in the air, the way the road seemed to breathe around them. He closed his eyes
and said a simple but deep prayer. He asked for strength. He asked for courage. He asked God to open the way. When he opened his eyes, the man had stopped talking. The voices grew quieter, and for a second, everything was too quiet. My grandfather took the chance. He forced his body forward and managed to take a step, then another, then one more. He walked straight past without looking at the figure. The voices disappeared immediately, as if they had been turned off. My grandfather quickened his pace until he reached the church. He was pale, trembling, almost unable to speak, but he told what happened. On the way back home, with the whole family, he paid attention to every detail of the path, the trees, the cliff, the dirt, the shadows, but there was no sign of anything. No man standing there, no footprints, no trace of human presence. The road was completely empty, as if no one had been there in years, and the silence was so deep he could hear the river far below, much farther than possible under normal conditions. My grandmother simply said, "On Lençol Hill, no one stands on the road after dark." My grandfather lived many years after that, but he never forgot that night, and whenever someone asked who that man was, he would answer, if it was a person, he wasn't from here.
If you made it this far, thank you for watching. If this story kept you engaged in any way, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can, leave a like. It helps the channel grow and motivates me to bring more stories for you. Let me know in the comments what you thought and what you'd like to hear next. See you in the next one.